Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking into a really touching story. It's all about beginnings, patience, and finding where you belong.
That's right. It centers on a rescue pup's journey to her forever home.
And we're basing this on sources around a new book. Yeah, Sauli's trip to San Francisco.
Exactly. We've got the book listing, some writings from the author, KJ. It gives us a good picture.
Okay, so our mission, if you will, is to unpack Sauli's journey, how she ended up in San Francisco, the bumps along the road.
And the lessons, too.
Yeah.
The sources really emphasize these universal ideas about trust and connection.
Right. And this book, it's actually number 2 in a series, a prequel.
Yeah, that's what the sources indicate. It's the second book in the Adventures of Sauli the Rescue Pup series, but it tells the start of the story. It comes after Sauli's day across the globe, but explains how it all began.
Interesting. So it sets the stage.
Precisely. This deep dive is really about those foundational moments for Sauli and her family.
All right, let's get into it. Where does this journey kick off? You mentioned it wasn't like a shelter visit initially.
No, not at all. The sources are clear. It started online. Yeah. Just seeing a picture of Sauli.
Just a photo.
Yeah. But apparently it had this real pull. A magnetism, the sources call it.
So more than just a cute dog picture.
Definitely. It's described as feeling like seeing a potential story unfold. An intimation, they say. It was that first step, opening up to the unknown based on just that feeling.
Okay, so from that digital connection to the real world, the first meeting. And the sources call it the tornado weekend. Sounds intense.
Oh, intense might be putting it mildly. This first face-to-face was in a Wisconsin hotel room. And Sauli. The sources describe her as just this burst of energy. And smart, too, a real whirlwind.
The hotel room, though, with a high-energy dog you've just met. That's brave.
Or maybe a little crazy. Yeah. The descriptions are pretty vivid attempts at escape furniture being rearranged. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just this feeling of untamed vitality, as the source puts it. It completely shattered any, calm, perfect image of meeting your new dog.
So it was messy.
Very messy. Very real. It showed the unpredictable reality of canine companionship right from the start.
But even in that chaos, something else must have been happening, like the beginnings of a bond.
Absolutely. The sources stress that, even with all the craziness, this subtle dance began. Communication, understanding. It wasn't quiet, but it was happening.
Was there a turning point, a moment where things shifted, even slightly?
Well, the sources mentioned a pivotal moment, the first real sign of trust from Sauli. Maybe just a look.
A shared glance.
Exactly. A flicker of recognition. And that's a key takeaway from material trust isn't automatic. It needs time. It needs patience, especially when things are, turbulent.
So that makes sense. It's built, not just given, even through the tough stuff.
Right. Those shared experiences, even the chaotic ones, started building it.
Okay, so they survived the tornado weekend, saw that flicker of trust. What came next?
Big move, right? The big journey west. Wisconsin to California.
Yeah.
And moving a dog like Sauli. The sources say it was formidable.
I bet logistics must have been a nightmare.
Like a labyrinthine puzzle is how they described it. Crate training, unfamiliar airports.
Yeah.
It's a lot, physically and emotionally for a dog.
Definitely.
But interestingly, the sources also talk about travel mishaps, things going wrong.
Oh, no.
But wait, it's actually framed positively. These mishaps became indelible vignettes, like memorable little stories that actually strengthen the bond.
So the bumps in the road actually helped.
It seems like it. Shared challenges bringing them closer.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. After all that, the planning, the tornado, the travel, Sauli arrives. San Francisco, the forever family.
Yes, and her arrival, her first moments in the new home. The sources call it a fascinating study.
How so?
Well, watching her adapt, she had this mix, curiosity, caution, but also that undeniable spark of mischief.
Sounds about right for a pup exploring.
Totally. But the sources frame it as more than just sniffing around. It was the real start. The moment two lives, the humans and the dogs, began the actual work of, merging into one family unit.
Not just instant bliss, but the beginning of the integration.
Exactly. The real work starting.
So looking at the whole arc, photo, tornado, travel, arrival, what are the big themes the sources pull out from Sauli's story?
There are a few key ones. First, this idea of the unexpected reality of adoption.
Right. Challenging the perfect fantasy.
Exactly. It shows the authentic, sometimes messy beauty of it all. The path isn't straight, it's not always easy, but that's what makes it real and worthwhile.
That's a really important message, especially for anyone thinking about rescue. What else?
Patience and trust. Big ones. The sources don't just call them virtues, they're active principles, like the absolute foundation, the bedrock of any real relationship.
You have to actively practice them.
Yes. Take a measured approach. Let trust blossom at its own pace. You can't force it.
Makes sense. And there was something about nonverbal connection.
The power of unspoken bonds. This is pretty profound. How much communication happens without words?
Like that shared glance you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Or a gentle touch, that intuitive understanding. The sources call these unspoken cues the cornerstones of connection on a really deep, almost primal level.
It's about understanding each other beyond language.
Precisely.
So bringing this back to you listening, why does Sauli's specific story, based on these sources, resonate more broadly? Why should you care?
Well, because these aren't just dog lessons, are they? They're human lessons. Navigating change, building relationships, the value of just sticking with it, understanding. That applies to any new connection.
Human or animal.
Absolutely. It's fundamentally about finding home, finding belonging. And who can't relate to that on some level?
True. It touches something universal.
And maybe it speaks even more directly to people who love rescue animals, who know that journey. Or anyone who's faced, a big move, a separation, starting over somewhere new.
There's a lot of hope in that, despite the challenges. So this deep dive into the sources around Sauli's trip to San Francisco, it really paints a picture of a journey that's lively, definitely challenging, but ultimately so rewarding.
Yeah, it shows how you find home, how you build connection, even when things are totally unpredictable.
It's a great illustration of patience and that quiet power of the bonds we form.
It really is. A testament to sticking it out and finding connection, even when it's messy.
And just a reminder for you, if you want to read the full story as told in the book, the sources say Sauli's trip to San Francisco is up for pre-order now. It releases May 31st, 2025.
Sounds like a story worth checking out.
Definitely. So as we wrap up, here's something to think about. What does this journey of finding home Sauli's, or maybe your own, teach us about patience? And what about that quiet strength, that real power in the connections we make without ever needing to say a word?